So in this lesson, we are going to look at working out what are called simultaneous equations. So they're called equations because if we have a look at this guy here, so this is what's known as a linear equation. So we know an equation has an equal sign in it, and the left-hand side is balanced with the right-hand side. So that's why it's called an equation, and it has a variable in it, for example, x. Simultaneous equations, then, the word simultaneous comes from where we are working with two equations at the same time. And the word simultaneous basically comes from that each equation has the same x and y value. So if we imagine, so here we have two lines, and each line is represented by an equation. So this is equation 1, x plus 2y is equal to 4, and then this is equation 2, x minus y is equal to 1. And this point here in the middle where they intersect, okay, at that point, so that's the point. So remember, this is the x-axis and this is the y-axis. So this point here, which is 2, so if we go up 2 and across 1, so this is the point 2, 1. So x is 2, y is 1. And I'll just write these over here. So x is equal to 2 and y is equal to 1. So these are the values. This is like the value for x and y. And with these two equations, it's called simultaneous because they have the same x and y values. So for example, at this point, so at this particular point, the values for this line here, the x and y value is 2, 1. Okay, so it's 2 and 1. And then the values for x and y for this equation here is also the point 2, 1. So in other words, they have the same x and y value. So they're what are called simultaneous equations. Now, you can, for example, draw a graph, and then you can take each of the equations and you can plot a line like this for each of the equations, and then where they intersect, you can get that x value and that y value, and you can work out what x and y is for the simultaneous equation. But that's an awful lot of effort. So what we can do is we can work with these individually or separately. And that's what we'll have a look at. Now, if we remember, so this here is a linear equation. So linear equation. And it's pretty easy to solve this. So if we want to work out what x is, we can minus 7 from both sides. So minus 7 here. And minus 7 here. And you'll get 2x is equal to, so 15 minus 7. 15 minus 7 is going to be equal to 50 minus 7 is equal to 8. Then we can divide both sides by 2. And then x is going to be equal to 4. Okay, so that's fairly straightforward. And we've done these, we've looked at linear equations. But now what we want to look at are simultaneous equations. So we want to think about how can we go about solving simultaneous equations. Okay, so let's get rid of this guy here. And let's write out the two simultaneous equations. So when you're solving simultaneous equations, the first thing you want to do is you want to number both of the equations. Okay, so we're going to have equation 1 and we're going to have equation 2. Okay, so we can take this one here. So this is going to be equation 1. So it's going to be x plus 2y is equal to 4. And then we will call this one down here equation 2. So x minus y is equal to 1. Now notice the difference between this equation and the last linear equation that we solved. So this equation has two variable values. So you have x and you have y. So you can't solve this equation on its own. You need another equation with it in order to be able to cancel out one of the variables, either the x variable or the y variable. And so what we can do is we can use this process of simultaneous equations. So the first thing you want to do is you want to number each of the equations. So this is equation 1, this is equation 2, and you want to put them over each other like so. Now, What we're trying to do is we're trying to manipulate one of the variable terms so that it has the same number in front of it but the opposite sign. So what do we mean by that? Like, let's say, for example, up here we have 2y. So if we have 2y, for example, at the top, in order to be able to get rid of this 2y variable, we have to manipulate the bottom 2y, which is minus 2y, so that it has the value of minus 2y. And then when you add those two terms together, what will happen is they'll cancel out and you'll just be left with one term. Now you can focus on either or. So you can either focus on getting rid of the x term, or you can focus on getting rid of the y term. So what are the rules then in relation to, so how do we go about changing this bottom variable so that y is equal to 2? So the two things we're allowed to do is we can multiply. So for example, you can multiply each term in the equation, so you're allowed to do that, and you can multiply it by a negative or positive number, okay, and that will change the sign. So what do we mean by that? So if we have a look at this, and let's say we want to focus on, first of all, getting rid of the y variable on both of these. So what we would do is we would look at the bottom and we'd focus on, so what do I have to do to minus y to change it to minus 2y? So I'd have to multiply everything by 2. So what we're doing is we're going to multiply everything in this equation by 2. So we'd basically rewrite them, okay? So we'll have, so the top part, nothing's going to change, it's going to stay the same. So it's going to be x minus 2y is equal to 4. And then the bottom part, what we're going to do is we're going to multiply each term by 2. Now when you're multiplying across, you have to multiply every term by whatever multiple you're multiplying it by. So we would have to multiply this, so the x by 2, so 2 multiplied by x, and what we're doing is we're rewriting this second equation. So it's going to become 2x, so 2 multiplied by minus y gives me minus 2y. So that should be plus up here, sorry. So that'll be minus 2y, and then 2 multiplied by 1 is just equal to 2. So that's the first part, okay? So we want to number the equation, so that's what we've done. We want to get rid of one of the variables, so in this case we've decided to get rid of the y variable. And once we've done that, so we can change the bottom variable, for example, to minus 2y by multiplying everything across this equation by 2. So you're allowed to multiply each of the terms by a multiple, and it can be a positive or negative number, which will allow you to change the signs. So we're trying to change this so that we have plus 2y on the top, and then we have minus 2y on the bottom, and then when we add these two equations together, the y term will cancel out. So that's what we've done. Okay, so we've manipulated the bottom equation so that the top part and the bottom part, the y term is the same value but opposite signs. Now what we do is we add these two together. So we add them together like so. Okay, so x plus 2x will leave me with 3x. Plus 2y minus 2y, so they'll just cancel out. So these two will cancel out, and that's what we want. We want to get rid of one of the variables, and then 4 plus 2 is just going to be equal to 6. So now what we've done is we've taken these two simultaneous equations and we have added them together, manipulated them so that we can get rid of one of the terms. We've added them together, and now we have just one equation. So 3x is equal to 6. So now what we can do is we can just simply solve it. So for example, if I want to get rid of the 3 here, so this is 3 multiplied by the value of x, so I have to do the opposite of multiplication, which is division. So I divide that by 3 and I divide this by 3, and then I'm going to get x is equal to 6 divided by 3, which is equal to 2. So now I know, for example, that one of the values so the x value in these simultaneous equations is equal to 2. So that's what we've done here. So we've added the equations together. We've added the equations together. We've solved for one of the variables, which is the x variable. And now what we want to do is we want to take this x value and put it into one of the equations that we started off with so that we can work out the y value. So if we take equation 1, so equation 1 is x plus 2y is equal to 4. and we've just learned or worked out that x is equal to 2. So what we can do now is we can take this x value and substitute it into this equation. So where there's an x, we just replace it with a 2. So it becomes 2 plus 2y is equal to 4. So now what we want to do is we want to get rid of this 2 on this side. So we have to minus 2 from here, and then we have to minus 2 from here. So 2 minus 2, that will cancel out, and we'll just be left with 2y is equal to 4 minus 2, which is equal to 2, like so. And then the final step, then we want to get rid of this 2 in front of the y because we want to get y on its own. It's 2 multiplied by the value of y. So what we can do then is we can divide both sides by 2. We do the opposite of multiplication and we divide. And that will leave us with y is equal to 1. So now what we've worked out what the answer is. So the answer is equal to, so x is equal to 2 and y is equal to 2. Okay, so sorry, y is equal to 1, should I say. Let me change that here. So y is equal to 1. So that's the process that we followed in order to solve this simultaneous equation. So what have we done? Okay, so the first thing we want to do is number the equations. So we have equation 1 and equation 2, so we number them. So we're asked to solve for x and y. So the next part then is get rid of one of the variables. So look at the top and the bottom and decide which variable you're going to get rid of. In this case, we decided to get rid of the y variable. So what we have to do is, in order to get rid of the y variable, we have to manipulate either the top and the bottom so that we have the y terms are the same value but opposite signs. So for example, this top part is plus 2y, so we have to change the bottom part so that it's minus 2y. How do we change the numbers, or how do we change the terms? Well, we're allowed to multiply each term in the expression by a number, and we're able to multiply it by either a positive or a negative number to change the signs. So what we done was, in order to change this bottom minus y to minus 2y, we multiplied everything in this equation by 2. So we multiplied the x by 2, which gives us 2x. We multiplied the minus y by 2, which gives us minus 2y. And then we multiplied the 1 by 2, which gives us just 2. So then what we done was we added the equations together. So we've added these two together. And what that does is it has the effect of cancelling out or getting rid of the y term. So we added x plus 2x gives me 3x. Plus 2y minus 2y cancels out, gives us nothing. And then 4 plus 2 is equal to 6. Then what we done was, so we had then a linear equation, so we have 3x is equal to 6, so we can then solve for x by dividing both sides by 3, and we worked out that x is equal to 2. So we don't need to have two of these here. So we worked out that x is equal to 2. Then what we done is, in order to get, so that's how we worked out the first variable, and in order to get the second variable, what we have to do then is take this value and substitute it into one of the original equations. So we just chose equation 1 and we substitute the value into equation 1. So what does that mean? So the first equation is x plus 2y is equal to 4. So we worked out that x is equal to 2. So we just put in 2 into the equation. So if this equation becomes 2 plus 2y is equal to 4, and then we solved for y. So we got rid of the 2 on both sides. Then we divided both sides by 2, and that tells us that y is equal to 1. So this is a way that we can solve these simultaneous equations. So one way we could do it is we could take the two equations and plot them on a graph. Okay, so they're two linear equations and we plot them on a graph, and then the point where they intersect, the x and the y value, that's the solution to it. So we can see that x is equal to 2 and y is equal to 2, and we can read that off a graph like so. So it's the point where the two equations cross each other and the x and y value is on both equations is equal to each other. And then this is the other way that we can solve it, and we can see that we've got the same values. X is equal to 2 and y is equal to 1. So let's give this another go. So let's have a look at this question here. So we have, let me just bring this over here. So we have this equation here. So this simultaneous equation. Let me just bring this down here. And I'll just draw a line down here as well so that we can So what I would encourage you to do is I'd encourage you to pause the video and see if you can work out this simultaneous equation here. So you're trying to work out what the value of x is and what the value of y is, following the same process that we used here, okay, following these rules, and see if you can solve it. And then what I'll do is I will give it a go and solve it. Okay, so let's see. So hopefully you paused the video and you've tried to give this a go. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go through these rules and we're going to solve this equation here. So the first thing you want to do is number both of the equations. Okay, so this is equation 1 and we'll call this equation 2. So the next thing is you need to decide that you want to get rid of one of the variables, either the x variable or either the y variable. So with this one we will focus on, let's say, getting rid of the x variable. So what we have to do is we have to look at this and say, how can I change the top x term and the bottom x term so that they have the same number but opposite signs. So for example, if I was to take this 4x and change it to plus 20 and then change this 5x to minus 20, then when I add the two simultaneous equations together, the x term will cancel out. So we think about, so what do I have to do to this top part to change it to 20? So I have to multiply everything in this by 5. So I'm going to have to multiply everything in this top term by 5 to change it to 20, and then the bottom one I'm going to have to multiply everything by minus 4. So remember, I want this bottom term to be 20, but I also want it to be the opposite sign, which is minus, so I have to multiply it by minus 4. Remember, like signs give plus, unlike signs give minus. So let's work this one out. So let me just work each of these ones out. So 5 multiplied by 4x gives me 20x. 5 multiplied by plus 3y gives me plus 15y is equal to, and then 5 multiplied by 22, so 5 multiplied by 22, that's going to be, let me just change this here, so 5 multiplied by 22 is equal to 110. Okay, so that would be 110. Okay, and then I have to do the same with this one, so I'm multiplying everything by minus 4. So minus 4 multiplied by 5x gives me minus 20x. Oh, that should be 20x. Let me just rub this out here. Sorry, minus 20x. And then minus 4 multiplied by minus 4 will give me plus 4 and 4 is 8, 8 and 8 is 16y is equal to minus 4 multiplied by 43. So that's going to give me, so 4 multiplied by 43, it's going to give me 172, and that's going to be minus 172, so minus 172. Okay, so we have rearranged these two equations. So this is equation 1, this is equation 2. So now what we can do is we can add these together. And let me just maybe put these down here, so before I add them. So equation 1 is 20x plus 15y is equal to 110. And then this bottom one, 2, is going to be minus 20x plus 16y is equal to minus 172. Okay, so then what we want to do is add these together. And when we add them together, the x term will cancel out. So plus 20x minus 20x just gives me 0. Plus 15y plus 16y. So if we do 15 plus 16, so 15 plus 16 is equal to 31. So that will become 31y is equal to, so 110 minus 172, so that's going to be so 110, so 110 minus 172, 172, that's equal to minus 62. Okay, and now what we can do is we can, so 31y is equal to minus 62. So now we can solve for y. So we can divide this by 31 and divide this by 31, and y is going to be equal to minus 2. Okay, so now that we've worked out, so we've solved the value of y, we can take this value of y and put it into one of the original equations. So we can take equation 1 up here and we can substitute in the y value. So it's going to be 4x plus 3y, so it's going to be 3 times the value of y, which is minus 2, is equal to 22. And now we can solve for x. So it's going to be 4x minus 6 is equal to 20. So now we can add 6 onto both sides. So add 6 here, add 6 here. 4x is going to be equal to 26. And then if we divide both sides by 4, so 26 divided by 4, and let me just cancel this. So 26 divided by 4 is going to be equal to 6.5. Okay, so x is equal to 6.5. And that's it. Okay, so we can say that x is equal to 6.5 and y is equal to minus 2. Okay, so that's simultaneous equation solved. So that's the process. So they are simultaneous equations. This is the process that you can use in order to solve the simultaneous equations. Okay, hopefully that helps. Thank you.